I always find it funny when people say they don't change because, like, I feel like everyone changes all the time. You can't help but change. Your brain can only hold so much information. So if we just look at it from like a logical perspective, your brain can only hold so much information at one point, and that just means that since it has a limitation, it has to optimize on um, what it takes seriously and what it doesn't take seriously. So your brain is like very good at forgetting. So at any moment, there's probably like a million things happening, but you can only pay attention to like a small fraction of that. So like there's like, now I could have been counting, but you know, there may have been like 10 cars that passed by in the past few seconds, but I wasn't paying attention because I was paying full attention to this, right? And even worse, I'm obviously going to forget that because what I'm only going to remember is the fact that I'm doing this and everything I've said because this is the most important thing to me. And I think that's like a really, really big principle that maybe a lot of people don't think about. And even if they do, they have a tendency to forget because that's just how it works. Um, your brain will make you forget something if you don't make it a point to actually keep remembering. So yeah, when people say, "Oh yeah, I never switched up. I've always been the same," it sounds nice, but realistically speaking, it's probably not true. Your circumstances are always changing. The people around you are always changing. And if you interact with the people around you, then you're probably also changing. Um, so yeah, in a way, like I think of it as like this blob. Okay, if you could think of your identity, which is basically a blob of concepts of like who you think you are, what you think you're capable of, and where you think you're going. Right, that blob, it's constantly like in flux. It's constantly shifting, morphing itself, changing into all these different forms. Um, and of course, like depending on the environment it's in, it's obviously going to absorb certain things because at the same time we keep perceiving information from our environments. We take that information in and then we, you know, obviously transform it. So it already, like the first transformation is just based on our lens. So the lens is based on the actual shape of the blob. So whatever it perceives. Um, that's like the first thing. That's the first transformation. And then the second transformation is basically how we interpret it. But like that actually, like that kind of information exchange was like you perceive things and then you act on them and then you perceive new things based on your actions. That's always happening. um, so we can't help but change. Like this blob can't help but take in information, reshape itself, and then act on the world, and then shape information and act on the world, and so on and so forth. We're constantly changing all the time. So now what you might need to realize is the fact that you are only, if you think of your identity as this blob, right? What you need to understand is that these blobs have a tendency of mimicking each other when they are around each other. So what that means is, realistically speaking, you will become like the people you spend your like a lot of time, um, spend a lot of time with smokers and drinkers, and you will start thinking that drinking and smoking is normal. They might suggest it to you one day, and then you do it, and then they'll congratulate you, say they call you like a man or whatever, like, hey, well done, bro, you're really cool. um, and you actually take it seriously. So the next time they do it, the next time they suggest it to you, you'll be less willing to say no, and then you might even do it again and again and again, and soon enough you're like, without even knowing how it happened, you're a smoker now. It really is like, I'm oversimplifying the process, but that's actually normally how it happens, how people change. Like And even worse, like they'll come up with all these different ways of rationalizing the change or rationalizing the new state of being. It's like, oh, I used to judge them, but actually there's nothing wrong with them. And to an extent, you're right. I feel like every lens of perception is right, because at the end of the day, you were in this lens of perception, which was, I'm not going to smoke. And now you're going to this new lens of perception, which is saying, I am a smoker and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There's nothing objectively wrong with either state that you were in, um, at least by themselves. Like the orbs, the identities by themselves, there's nothing wrong with them, right? It's only when we put intention into being that's when things get a bit tricky. Because if your intention was to keep your body and your mind in a state where it can make, like, it can basically be in its best state possible, then you don't want to drink and smoke, because obviously that's going to make you intoxicated. It's going to lead to worse decisions, and those worse decisions are going to affect your life or your business or whatever you actually find really, really important. So yeah, basically, if your intention, like, depending on your intentions, you need to make sure that the shape of your identity is not being corroded by external elements that might lead you in the wrong direction. This is basically, like, this is a convoluted way of saying you have to watch who you hang around. Like, if I were to just sum up this entire video, it would be, watch what you take seriously, watch who you hang around, because it hanging around people isn't even just like your physical environment. It's the content you consume, right? You read a bit of Alex Hormozy and you start talking about like operationalizing everything. You read Naval and you start talking about productizing yourself. Um, like you don't even notice these kind of shifts in thinking that you actually having, but it's just because you like these people and you want to be like them. So your orb is shifting itself to be like them. It happens so naturally we don't even notice it. So again, like, you would have been this person, and then you would have shifted towards becoming this new person who's rationalizing things in this new way, depending on the shape of their orb. You don't even notice it. So since the transition is so smooth, what we shouldn't be doing is trying to notice or whatever, because it's going to happen anyway. It's always happening, right? What we should be doing is we should just pick a direction and then just let things move as they will, because they will move, right? Pick a direction and then ask yourself where you want to go. Ask yourself what you should be consuming, in which environments you should be in to make that direction more probable. And then put yourself in those environments, in those digital environments, right? If that means Telegram groups with like crypto enthusiasts, put yourself in there. If you want to be like a crypto millionaire, you probably want to be in those types of environments. If if it means you want to be like an entrepreneur or something, you want to start a business, put yourself in the room like with other entrepreneurs, whether that be in actual like spaces with like like conventions, or it could even be like a bar with other entrepreneurs. Like, these people exist everywhere. Put yourself in those rooms. Depending, like, ask yourself who you want to be, what are your intentions, and then change your environment to increase the probability of those intentions coming true. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.